Welcome to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled. I'm Mercedes Schlapp.
And I'm Matt Schlapp.
And today actually is a really special day because it's our 11-year-old's birthday, sweet Ava, our fourth baby. So
yeah, not our 11th baby, our fourth baby.
We could have gone to 11, but
I would have liked to. Would have been okay.
But Ava's one of our sweet, sweet children. In fact, we don't even know if she's even related to us because she's
pretty sweet,
kind and sweet and smart and fabulous.
I call her the potato. She's
Yes,
the best.
yes.
She's a sweet potato.
So happy birthday, Ava. But let's get started. We've got a very, very busy news day, as you all know. But we always like to start with some, Matt tweets.
Twitter action.
Exactly. So Matt, you tweeted, I don't know if it was to Stacey Abrams, but that's pretty much what it sounded like. She was on with Anderson Cooper. Yes, that's right. The communist news channel, CNN. And Stacey Abrams responds on the new election laws. Not only is there this hypocrisy, but it's gaslighting. Republicans are saying aloud that there's nothing wrong. And at the same time, they're pushing forward legislation to fix something they say is broken. I didn't even understand what she was trying to say, but you responded, there is something terribly wrong, Stacey. It's called unregistered illegal voting, and we will now fight for legal voting.
Yeah, so what HR 1 and S1, the Senate companion, what they would do is just make it easier to vote without verifying who you are. So what Stacey Abrams is saying is that we're being hypocritical. I will give Stacey Abrams and Mark Elias credit. They're not being hypocritical. They're actually being very clear. They want to change the laws so that you can illegally ballot harvesting, just vote as many times as you have ballots, and also vote if you're not legally allowed to vote. That's all HR 1 and S1, basically what it's about. The other thing they don't want you to ever do is ever clean the rolls. The dirtier the rolls, the more names are on non-voters, the more they can fill out those ballots for those non-voters.
Yeah,
they got a pretty slick operation going on.
You know, we actually spent the weekend with some fabulous folks from the NRA, and I was talking to a wonderful couple. They have a house down in Florida and a house in Wisconsin and a house in Illinois. I don't know how they have
that's
three
a good
houses, but they
that's
have
a good
three
deal.
Houses. And they literally got 3 ballots in each of those locations. Just think about that. They technically could have voted 9 times.
Yeah.
9 times. Obviously, Florida being a battleground state, Wisconsin being a battleground state. That's where we are right now. Broken election system in the sense that these laws, the fact that these election files are so antiquated in many of these states, and they need to be cleaned up. It's one of the reasons why in our Center to Protect our voters and their voices, we are focused on stopping HR 1, now S1 in the Senate. We believe it's so important to ensure that we protect our republic, that we ensure for free and fair elections.
All right, so then I got a great tweet here from Mercedes.
Like the mediocre tweeter.
I don't know if you saw this, but Dr. Fauci actually admitted to theater. Remember all these interactions he has with Rand Paul where he accuses Rand Paul of theater? Well, Dr. Fauci says basically, I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals by being fully vaccinated. The chances of my getting infected in an indoor setting are extremely low, but yet he wore the mask over and over and over again because he was engaged in theater. And my wife says, then why push such extreme mask wearing measures, creating fear and people shaming others? The other piece of this is kids. You know, the idea that kids have to still be masked after everyone knows there's absolutely really no reason for these masks. But look, you got Fauci guilty here, dead to rights.
Guilty. Let me explain something to you. What I'm so upset about right now, Matt, is the fact that this White House, this administration, the CDC, Dr. Fauci, they have failed to roll out an effective communication strategy that would explain the changes to the mask guidelines. They've gone from one extreme to the next without explaining why. And Dr. Fauci gives his just nonchalant answer of, well, I didn't mean to give mixed signals. He is representing the CDC. He is the one, the godlike Fauci, that's been trying to dictate to us when and how we have to wear a mask at all times, even when we kiss. And you know what? It's outrageous how this administration has failed the American people, has caused confusion, has had a muddled message, and we deserve better. And to your point, our children have no business wearing a mask, especially those little kids. It's so important for their development to be able to see someone else speaking without having a mask in place.
As Larry O'Connor famously said, Fauci you. I think that's what we all think.
Fauci you. That's so great. I remember
Yes,
that. If you haven't
right.
seen that, we'll have to include it here so you can take a look at it.
Do we have more tweets?
Yeah, you have one more. I had one more. So Schlapp, you said, thanks to the Trump vaccines, you always love saying that, we can toss out Biden mask now. Let's remove Pelosi's wall. So
Since my wife was not so good at reading, what I said was, thanks to the Trump vaccines, we can toss out our Biden mask.
You put out
and
twice
now,
for the record?
if I could keep reading, and now let's remove Pelosi's wall. As you know, Nancy Pelosi has basically surrounded the Capitol because she's afraid that there's going to be an imminent attack at any time. She's surrounded this huge fence wall all around the Capitol, all around the Supreme Court. You can't get near those places. It's time for that to come down. But isn't it great? We have Trump vaccines for everybody who's really worried.
Well, Biden thinks it's his vaccine, so I don't know what you're saying. But the reality is,
remember, Biden got vaccinated by Trump, and he couldn't remember that he got vaccinated during the Trump presidency.
Yes.
I always thought that was delicious.
What I'm also finding with Biden is the way he talks about the vaccines, it really makes those people who are nervous about getting the vaccines not want to get them. Because he basically says,
there's no upside.
Literally says, you got to get vaccinated or else you will pay the price.
Yeah.
I mean, who talks like that?
Yeah.
It's like, that's not a way to encourage the American people to get vaccinated.
Do you know how you encourage conservatives?
People to do that?
Do you know how you encourage conservatives to get vaccinated? Tell them that Joe Biden doesn't want them to get vaccinated. They will get vaccinated so fast. These people need to learn a little child psychology, right?
That is.
And conservatives don't want to do it because it's a government mandate. They want to do it because it's freedom. It's kind of like when you tell the girls, go out and shoot 100 basketball shots.
Yeah.
I say, no, tell them to go play horse and have fun. It's our great honor to have with us somebody who was just a great ally to President Trump, is now serving in the United States Senate, served his country as our ambassador to Japan. Bill Hagerty, thanks for joining us on CPAC Now.
Matt, wonderful to be back with you and Mercy. Thank you.
Well, we're excited to see you at CPAC Texas on July 9th through the 11th. So make sure all of you who are watching come and join us. We know registration's opening up May 20th. And Senator, we are thrilled that hopefully you'll be able to join us during that time.
I'm planning on it, Mercy. I look forward to being there with you again. CPAC has grown so much under your leadership. And Matt, I've got to take my hat off to you. You're taking CPAC around the world right now. You're taking our conservative message to countries that need it. I mean, the world is starving for American leadership, conservative leadership. And you guys are trailblazers in this field. And I'm so happy to support you and be part of it.
You know, we haven't talked about it to this audience, but you and Mercy were just discussing the reach, even just of this communicating we're doing through our website online, is reaching hundreds of thousands of people every week. Our engagements are really impressive. The American people are hungry, but you know what's also great about this show, Senator, is we have an international audience. Yeah. People know what CPAC is all over the globe.
Well,
so you want.
Yeah, you're doing a great job of continuing to move that forward, and we're also appreciative of your leadership.
So, Senator, talking about around the world, one of the recent op-eds you wrote with H.R. McMaster was on Biden and Iran. Basically, Biden must reverse his course on Iran before it's too late. How do you see the direction that the Biden administration is going to take on their very, I believe, cozy relationship with Iran?
You know, it's a strategy of appeasement that we know doesn't work, Mercy. They've stepped up to appease Iran to try to somehow satisfy the mullahs, the Ayatollah, to think that somehow appeasing them is going to get them to change their behavior. Well, I can assure you that it won't. We've had disappointment after disappointment, decade after decade, trying to deal in that manner. Again, what the world needs and what countries like Iran need are an America that speaks from a position of strength. And H.R. McMaster, the former national security advisor when I was serving as ambassador to Japan, both of us understand that very clearly. And what I can't believe is that the Biden administration is willing to throw away such hard-won sanctions. I mean, I can tell you a lot of work went into delivering, for example, the nation of Japan to stop buying oil from Iran. That took months of negotiation. I was deeply involved in that. And the thought that we would just throw that away in some effort toward appeasement is ridiculous. And what's the appeasement driving? It's driving the hostility right now with the proxy wars that Iran's trying to fight through the Middle East. Look at Hamas right now from Gaza, launching rockets into Israel. All of those rockets are either made in Iran or the parts came from Iran that were assembled there. I mean, that's what's happening right now. And the Biden administration is encouraging this through the sort of, weak policies of appeasement.
Ambassador, I love that title, so I'm going to use that for this question. You spent time in a dangerous neighborhood around China. You know that President Trump had a new approach to negotiating. Why would we get rid of sanctions when we haven't even gotten what we want out of Iran? Isn't this the wrong and backwards way to do it?
It's absolutely the wrong timing and the wrong direction. And the people that live here in America who've escaped from Iran, who still have family there, have told me this is the only way, that they were at the brink of economic capitulation. And to step back from that right now, when we're at a point where we're bringing them to a place where we could truly negotiate a long-term strategy and a long-term ability to do away with their nuclear program forever, that's where we were. That's where we were headed. Now what we're doing is going back into the failed Iran agreement that basically put them on a course to obtain nuclear capability. This is going to be an accelerant, and it's going to provide them with billions of dollars yet again to fuel these proxy wars that they love to engage in around the region and destabilize the region, particularly in light of the progress that had been made in the previous administration. And Mercy, I'm going to come back to you on this because the work that went in to get the Abraham Accords done was tremendous, and the results were tremendous. If you think about the momentum that we gained with regional allies finally normalizing relations with Israel, putting us on a path to really have a fundamentally different and more peaceful region. What the Biden administration done is taken the past 4 months, and rather than use that to continue to move with that momentum and bring more of the allies in the region into the Abraham Accords, they should have worked on that also to bring Palestine to the table. But instead, they've spent all of this time appeasing Iran, fueling this fire, and really destabilizing the entire region.
So I think you bring up a good point, which is where does the Abraham Accords, where do they stand? We see that they've stalled, I think, with the Biden administration. Has there been any conversation with the administration of moving this forward and taking it to the next level?
Well, I've had conversations with the administration. I've had conversations with Secretary of State Blinken about this, and he's been overall supportive of it. But the problem is the policy failure in the direction that they're moving with Iran undercuts all of this progress. It undercuts the momentum because what it does is it emboldens Iran and it emboldens their partners like Hamas to destabilize the region at a time when we need to be strengthening it. So the momentum that we had in place, again, is something that needs to be capitalized on. And these past 4 months of the Biden administration have moved exactly the wrong direction. So their words are one thing, but their actions are actually pushing us in the wrong direction.
Senator Hagerty, we have this whole problem with big tech and them censoring and canceling conservative voices. There seems to be different approaches that conservatives like yourself are taking when it comes to combating the oligarchs. Section 230 allows for more lawsuits by those who are abused by these companies. And then you have other people that just say this is an antitrust question and we ought to take these companies and, Google, I guess, would be the one to start with, but really just bust them apart because they're just too big. They're essentially trusts. Do you think one path is better than the other, or are you for all the above?
Look, we need to address this, and I'm open to a variety of mechanisms to do it. I like the approach that Justice Thomas took in an opinion that he wrote. I thought it laid out a very thoughtful approach to treat these large, ubiquitous firms, these platforms, as common carriers. And in doing so, these big platforms have to offer non-discriminatory access to the general public. That's what we need to see. And I thought that was a useful construct. Again, Section 230 is outdated. It's a 25-year-old law. A quarter of a century ago, who would have anticipated platforms the size of Facebook, Twitter, Google being in the position that they are today, but they really do control the public square. And when those rules were drafted, they were drafted in a vague manner that allow censorship essentially to emerge. And it's been unfettered. And what we've seen is a far disproportionate censorship against conservative voices. It's got to come to an end. And that's
so just real quickly to summarize, sir, you're not so much from the standpoint of like the AT&T approach. It's too big, busted up into all these, what we did at the time, baby bells. You think the Justice Thomas approach is better, is keep that big platform, but make them have kind of fairness in their operating?
That's the direction that makes the most sense to me, Matt. They've put a great deal of investment into these platforms. They enjoy a market position that they've earned, but they're abusing it when it comes to censorship. And I think what we have to acknowledge is the fact that these large ones, again, these are the ones with over 100 million monthly subscribers that we're talking about. These large carriers really are in a place right now where they are censoring public speech. It's an anti-First Amendment position, I think, that they're taking when they come in and apply vague rules, non-disclosure rules, to come in and essentially censor conservative voices. The original act provided for the ability of these platforms to maintain a certain amount of decency, but there they were thinking about obscenity, extreme violence, things of that nature, not to use this extraordinarily vague criteria, the things that are otherwise objectionable, which is the language, that these big platforms use that vague language, that vague clause, to basically censor anything that they want to, and they're not clear about their criteria. It just seems to be whatever they decide at the time. And my Democrat colleagues need to understand that the pendulum can swing in the other direction. Right now, it's conservatives that are being hammered by this, but it can happen in either direction when we let companies, platforms of this size and this scale be discriminatory and censor. So that's what this is aimed at dealing with.
So you mentioned the First Amendment, Senator. So I can't help but ask you a question about Prince Harry, who literally last week on a podcast said, quote, I can't do the British accent, but I've got so much I want to say about the First Amendment as I sort of understand it, but it is bonkers. Your response to Prince Harry?
Oh my gosh. I saw that as well. I'm not certain that Prince Harry warrants this level of conversation about our own founding principles. America is the most exceptional nation in the world. And we stood up to Britain before. They don't fundamentally, the royal family may not fundamentally understand these principles, but this is one of the uniquely American strengths, our freedom of speech, and we need to continue to protect it at every turn.
Well, I think I know what it is, Senator. He doesn't want Meghan Markle to have a First Amendment because every time she talks, she causes him a lot of heartburn.
That may well be the case, Matt. I'll let you continue the speculation on that.
I have an idea. Just send them both back to England.
That's
okay?
right.
I don't even think the Queen wants them back there, but that's a
I
different
think
story.
they got in through the southern border. I don't know how they got here, but we can get this solved.
Okay, try to get the fullest yet. Let me just ask you on this legislation you introduced, the 21st Century Free Speech Act, which would stop the censorship by companies like Facebook and Twitter. Is there any Democrat support on this piece of legislation?
We're working through the process right now, Mercy. And as I said, I'm having conversations with my colleagues. My staff are having conversations with other senator staff. So we're moving through a process to try to get to the right answer here. I'm not trying to rush it, but I'm trying to get to an answer that works for all of us. And so we're early in the process right now, a lot more work to do, but it's a big question. It's a big issue for America. It's a big issue globally when you think about it, and we need to get this right.
Senator, I ask a lot of people that come on the show what their interaction is with Joe Biden. I know you had this important role. Really, you could argue the most important ambassadorship is the U.S. ambassador to Japan. You fulfilled that role. Do you get to talk to President Biden about your experience, or have they been giving you mostly the Heisman like they have other Republicans?
I've not been in conversations with President Biden about our foreign policy, what's happening in the region that I just left, or what's happening south of our border, which I think is tragic and something I just most recently visited. I don't know why this administration is moving in the direction that they are, but they seem to be looking to the past with all of their foreign policies. And I can tell you, those policies didn't work. We spent 4 years trying to correct those and put ourselves in a better position. And you just look at the crisis at our southern border right now, and you can see what a policy disaster the administration is creating.
So you recently went to Mexico and Guatemala, looking at the impact of these cartels. As we've seen, they've gained more strength under President Biden. Where do you think we can find, if any, common ground with the Biden administration and the Democrats in helping to stop this chaos on the border?
Well, what they've done at the border is essentially turned it into a turnstile. You know, they've stopped construction of the wall. That's a piece of infrastructure we actually do need, Mercy. They've stopped construction of the wall. They've created a series of incentives. Basically, a giant magnet is the way the people in the leadership of leadership of Guatemala and Mexico described it to me. A giant magnet in the form of making promises that the coyotes can then leverage. A promise for perhaps $15 an hour. The promise for $1,400 checks for illegal immigrants who can get here. The promise of free healthcare, free COVID vaccines. The fact that we've extended our unemployment, our plussed up unemployment, all the way to September, which is keeping lots of jobs unfilled here in America. And again, the president of Guatemala, his foreign secretary, the foreign secretary of Mexico, and the economic secretary of Mexico, you know, explained to me this is creating great problems for them too. The coyotes, who are affiliated with these cartels, these organized crime operations down there, are using the messages coming from this administration to market to very vulnerable people, to get them to put their life savings on the line and engage in a very dangerous journey, a journey that often results in them being involved in sex trafficking, drug trafficking. They become victims of crime themselves. More than half of the people who step into this movement toward our southern border wind up as crime victims. And what else happens? These cartels are getting richer by the day. The flow of illegal drugs across the border has increased dramatically since the 20th of January. Just look at my home state. We've had record increase in the number of encounters with fentanyl, increased flow of illicit drugs, and increased deaths from overdoses. I mean, they're partnering with the Chinese to bring fentanyl into Mexico primarily. They're fabricating it there, moving it across the border with these cartels, and they're using these human beings, these illegal immigrants, as a means to hide and shelter and cover for that. They've created a complete disaster at the border. They've overwhelmed our border security, and now it's just carte blanche for all types of crime, whether it be human trafficking or drug trafficking that's coming across that border right now.
If I can quickly just ask a question, I know we got to wrap here, but want to get your sense, obviously, you know, with your expertise from being ambassador to Japan, what's going to happen with China? Where are we headed when they're now sensing, they smell the weakness of the Biden presidency? How hurtful will this be to the United States and our economy?
Mercy, you're getting at a matter of great concern for me. I think that we're being tested at every turn right now. If the Chinese sense weakness, they're going to exploit it. And you know, they're already exploiting the weakness at the southern border, as we discussed. They're increasing the flow of fentanyl, again, through Mexico into our nation, killing our kids, weakening us socially in that manner. But they're also going to be testing us in every other direction. You think about the predatory practices of China from a military standpoint. We've talked about this before, but they've built half a dozen military islands in the South China Sea. This takes you back to 2015 when President Xi stands in the Rose Garden right next to President Obama saying they have no intent to militarize those islands. Fast forward to today, those islands are completely militarized with runways, with turrets. They're fully armed. Their military aggression has stepped up tremendously. They're moving in the South China Sea, and again, they're back into the East China Sea, harassing the Japanese around the Senkaku Islands. We're going to see their economic aggression continue even further as well, I think. They're not backing off of the intellectual property theft that's been underway. We don't see them backing off of the subsidization of their chief industries. They're continuing to push Huawei around the world. They're continuing to threaten the infrastructure, the global infrastructure, with their product that is either inferior or from a security standpoint, very vulnerable. we've got to stand up to this. And what I'm missing here is seeing a strong position by this administration. In fact, they're weakening us. If you take a look at the Keystone XL pipeline, one of the first decisions that the Biden administration made was to do away with that pipeline. Well, where do you think that oil is going to go? It's going to be imported from Canada. It's going to be imported right through Vancouver to China. Their input factor costs are going to go down. Their energy costs are going to go down, just as ours are going up. And when the Biden administration says, well, we'll move to wind, we'll move to solar, where do you think the wind turbines and the solar panels are fabricated and made? They're made in China. So again, China's laughing all the way to the bank on this one, and they're going to continue to test us.
Yep, that's right, Senator. Thanks for making these complicated issues really understandable to our audience. Thanks for the great work.
I do think the senator probably has one of the highest IQs in the Senate, but we won't tell any of the other.
No offense, Senator. Some of us don't think that's saying very much. We also think that you have a great energy level, and you're going to be able to outpace a lot of these colleagues you have out there. We're just glad you're there.
Thank you, Matt, Mercy. It's great to be on with you, and thank you for all you're doing for the conservative movement.
Thank you, sir. We'll be right back to CPAC Now after this short break.
Welcome back to CPAC Now, America Uncanceled, and it's the good news time. Always
awesome.
My favorite part
Need some
of
good
the
news.
show. But I tell you, I really enjoyed that interview with Senator Hagerty. He's like brilliant.
Yeah, smart guy.
Yeah, so I thought that was fabulous.
Also a very successful businessman. We need more of that in Congress for sure.
No kidding.
Not a lawyer.
Well,
sorry, lawyers.
No, some of the
we
lawyers
love our
are
good
good. We do
conservative
need
lawyers,
the lawyers.
but there's enough lawyers in Congress.
They keep us out of trouble, okay? But we got a note, Matt, from this wonderful couple, Mike and Marie from Iowa. It was their first time they went to Orlando for a CPAC, and I just wanted to share with you the sweet note that they sent. Matt and Mercy, our first CPAC was an incredible experience. We want to thank you for your service and support for the conservative movement. Thank you for the weekly updates as well. Whenever in Iowa, please let us know. We have a great room available. Well, let me tell you.
Ooh, I like that. I'm the cheapest man in humanity. I will take advantage of that, even if it's in a sleeping bag in the basement. Save ACU a little bit of money on the hotel rooms. I'm all for it.
No kidding. But, another good news item here we've got is CPAC Texas.
That's right.
We are getting ready. I got to tell you could feel it in the air here at the CPAC offices in Virginia. We are really razor focused in getting our speakers all invited and confirmed and ensuring that we get our registration ready to go. The registration opens up to everyone May 20th, and you all should be the first to get these tickets. So go to conservative.org to get your tickets. Again, you can save your spot if you go now, and also get ready to register May 20th.
And I'm looking at all this great list of people who are speaking, who I'm not allowed to tell you who they are, but they are really good. I'm looking at it. We are going to have a who's who. This is a national CPAC, folks. We're having it in Texas to reward Texas and to reward the leadership of Governor Abbott and the other wonderful conservative officials. The same thing we did in Florida. We wanted to reward Governor Ron DeSantis. Actually, we didn't have too many choices of where to go since Larry Hogan said it would be a super spreader if we had CPAC in Maryland. We went to Florida. Strangely enough, it was not a super spreader.
And guess what? COVID, the cases have gone down in Texas.
Yeah, so being open does not make you unhealthy.
Right.
It actually keeps you healthy.
And to stay healthy, go to CPAC Texas for healthy conservative conversations.
Okay, so you guys know we're coming at you 3 times a week at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go to our website at conservative.org. Click the link. Follow Mercedes on Twitter at
Mercedes Schlapp.
Follow Matt Schlapp on Twitter at mschlapp. Where I'm also trying to get a little more conversant in using other platforms on social media. We're going to be highlighting our efforts on those.
And if I can interrupt 1 second, and just watch the Bill Walton show. That's on Mondays at 7. This past
our new show
is phenomenal. If you want to learn anything about woke corporations and how to stop the radicalization of these companies, you could watch it. It's on conservative.org. It's a Bill Walton show. You were on with Bill and
Justin Inhofe, and we talked about his efforts to try to push back on woke capitalism. And we're going to have Justin hopefully come join us at Dallas CPAC as well and talk about all the things we can do together. And you're a big part of it. you're a big part of the saving of our country and the pushback. We were with these great patriots who love the Second Amendment down in Florida at the NRA meeting. You know, these people all over the country feel like you do, which is America could slip through our fingers or we could save her. I choose that we save her. And I think we got more of us than we have of them, so let's keep working together to get it done. And like as Mercy said, go to conservative.org, save your seat for CPAC. If you can't get to CPAC in Texas, we're going to bring it all to you through our website and through Rumble and through all these other great sites. So let's go out there and save our country.
Good night and God bless.